It's the time to get down.
It's Conspiracy Wednesday.
It is, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, no matter what you do, every day it seems that there's more of the good news, the bad news, and all that other shit. Hey, you guys, touchy subject today. Touchy subject. PMC has a video that he did on it called Weapon. That's his, right, PMC, that you were talking about? No, that's actually, he did a PSA on the thoughts on assault weapons, okay? I try to share these things. I like to share them on the show. So sometimes if I know I'm going to show it, I'll try to wait or just watch like the beginning.
Right.
Because I like to enjoy it with you guys. It just seems more fun for some reason. Anyway, but today, we're talking about a very serious subject, which is gun control. And before we get too far into this, let me just say on the top, everybody got to keep cool. People got to keep cool. This is one of those topics where people get very angry and hostile on both sides of the issue. People who are for gun control get so mad they go get their gun and shoot you.
No, it's not that.
I hate to say it, but that's the truth.
Well, not all
all
people.
the pacifists pull out their guns.
But see, let's not make sure now.
I'm
not
just saying.
all the people.
No, I'm just telling everybody, be cool with this, because you will find, everybody will find that they have people close to them that are on opposite sides of this.
Yeah.
And the reasons are important, at least for the discussion. And that's what I wanted to attempt to deal with somewhat today on Conspiracy Wednesday, is to try to attempt to acknowledge the reasons, because that's the part you don't hear on media. What do you mean, Mario? The media basically portrays the gun control issue from sort of a, like most of these kinds of topics, sort of a uniform position that actually sort of exploits certain areas of the issue without delving into other ones, specifically whys. No one out there on TV spends a bunch of time, or actually almost no time, talking about why the people who are against gun control are against gun control.
Right.
Because that's and that's herein where the conspiracy comes in. Because, and the reason why I say everybody be cool is because the people who are really for gun control are very passionate, and those against it are very passionate. And their reasonings are totally different. But there's a bunch of stuff they agree on.
Right.
In other words, they all want less crime.
Yeah.
See, that's what's so interesting. The people for gun control want less crime. The people who are against gun control want less crime, and they say that's why they have less crime. I must admit, in Arizona, I was walking, you get to wear a gun strapped.
Right.
And when a guy walked in his cowboy suit and had the 6 gun on, all I can say is everybody real polite. Everybody real, yeah. Nobody mess around because you might be strapped.
Yeah. All things being equal, of course.
But then they say, look at what's going on. We don't have the crime. So why are you coming at us?
Right.
We all got guns, but we don't have no crime.
It's all relative, right?
Right. And my mother, it's different. She said, well, son, I got a rifle when I was 12 years old. I said, in the country. You go start going hunting and stuff.
All right. That's right.
Many people get a rifle before they're 12 years old.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about this gun control, and everybody is on a different side, but I did want to tell everybody to stay, stay cool on this, because it's going to be today's Conspiracy Wednesday, so we're going to talk about that. And the main point I'm going to go is to really examine openly why it is that people feel they need guns. And because you don't hear that discussion, you really don't. And the truth is, Vic, people want guns because they actually feel that one day they may have to fight their government.
The right to bear arms under, everybody's conditions. I understand this. If you take a certain event, something very tragic, very bad, and that's the mantle that you're riding on, no matter how terrible it is, you still have to think of all the other conditions that come with it. And let's just look at it this way. Everybody knows that people can do harm without guns. They just happen to be the easiest form
Right. Like,
now.
what if I poison water? I don't want
Right.
to give people ideas.
Right.
But
It's-
yeah, there's ways to kill a whole lot of people.
right? And
You know, way more than
Right.
if you really, and the U.S. do like the U.S. government did the first known instance of germ warfare. They sent all those blankets with smallpox
Right.
to the Native Americans.
see, so
Okay, that's one of those. That's where the history of it comes from because people have done these things. Okay,
Right.
yeah, Vic. The whole issue. That's part of the issue. That's why it's in your. That's part of the Bill of Rights.
Right.
You know, the right to bear, the right for you to bear arms.
that's right.
Because the founding fathers also saw that one day you may need to fight your government.
Right.
Now, I don't want to be construed as an anarchist here, even though there are people who use that word in a fond way, like Noam Chomsky and some others. So, and maybe I am, but I know that I have issues with government and big government.
Right.
Okay, and my issue now. Here's the other thing people don't realize of today's ilk. In the conspiracy group, going all the way back to the 60s and 70s, really, it was felt that there was going to be government attempts to control arms.
Right.
And then part of the whole conspiracy literature was that the way it was going to be done was to allow crime to flourish to a degree that you would call for these things. I'm one of the people who said when the Soviet Union crashed, one of the things I said back then, you could find it probably somewhere, I predicted the militarization of the police. I said, now that you have the Soviet Union just one day fell, and I said, they didn't tell you that they acted like they didn't even know. Mm-hmm. One day the Soviet Union fell, just toppled over. I said, now you're going to have to spend that money somewhere. Watch how they militarize the police. And then I said, now you need an enemy too. Remember I said it? Mm-hmm. I said, you need an enemy. Because you had the mythological enemy that was the Soviet Union. Right. Yeah, they were so bad one day they just fell over and died. Couldn't even make a car. They had us so concerned about the Soviet Union. And they could never make a car.
Right.
Okay. And one day the whole country leadership just fell over and died, mainly out of spending all their money trying to keep up with the U.S. in foreign incursions.
So are you saying don't believe the hype?
Well, I'm saying somehow Ronald Reagan immediately prior to that had pitched Star Wars. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they did one of the most massive military buildups in your time.
Right.
Okay, and spending against an enemy that one day fell over and died, and they act like they didn't have any idea. Right. That's what I tell people. You think one day the Soviet Union just fell over, and I said, you think the CIA didn't know this? But they just did this massive military buildup.
Right.
Okay. All right. So now, back to this whole issue, because I'm bringing up the conspiracies. I'm not saying, you guys, I'm trying to express the conspiracies, and then we're going to watch some videos. I'm saying that these were part of the things that people talked about. So there were predictions about what was going to occur. Okay, like we talked about the crack epidemic, about that being a conspiracy here in the inner cities. And we also said after 9/11, people were going to write a blank check.
Right.
And we quoted some people like Huey Long, who said fascists would come masquerading as patriots.
Right.
Okay. So there are people who've talked about stuff like this all along.
Right.
And especially when you get into communities that are more independent and rural, where they're more dependent on themselves, as opposed to the cities. Right. We're dependent on these services.
Right.
So what happens? Who do you think has the more independent mindsets? The people in the rural, because they already taking care of themselves. Right. They feel like you ain't helping them.
That's true.
And they're going to say, now you want to come after my guns. And they said they've been talking about for the last 50 years, one day you're going to come after my guns. You know what's crazy, Vic?
What is that?
Over the weekend, there was a gun show here.
Yeah.
It was so packed. You had to wait in line like 2 blocks. Now, why everybody in L.A.? So now everybody in L.A. supposed to be against gun control. Now why with the laws passing? And you should go look at the people in there buying guns, assault weapons. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, hey, look. You hit the nail on the head.
There's a lot of reasons to have guns.
And I always say,
but I'm not defending it. I'm just saying one of the issues.
Well, yeah. Look, they're saying this at the. See, it's that part where they say, well, why you're worried about. They say here. Says there's a bus accident on the street, say in the valley, and a butterfly flaps its wings in China somewhere. And he says, what's relative to that? Why you say this? He says, well, things can happen when you're you're looking at one aspect. So if you look in the aspect of the right to to bear arms, and there's crime in your area, and you rah, we need to get rid of these guns, then all of a sudden this wonderful nation comes to attack your country. While you sitting up there thinking this way, now you do hope this is, well, wait, I didn't think of that could possibly happen, invasion. Now I know everybody's going to say, well, you're taking it too far. I said, but now the conditions change where you go like, you hope all your people have arms.
Well, yeah.
It's all relative to the
It
conditions.
depends on what you think. And I
Right.
hate to talk about people in the hood. Okay, but let me tell you what happened the last earthquake here. When we hit it, I had like $60. Earthquake hit, crazy. Okay, so I tried to go to all the ATMs are shut down.
Right.
People were selling batteries for like $10 or some stuff.
All day.
And the gas stations, it was crazy. So I'm looking around going, this is crazy. Now, that's when I didn't own guns.
Right. Right.
Now, after the earthquake,
Right.
I stopped.
Yeah.
Now, why? Because the urban folks can get crazy. They were driving the streets crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you wanted to shut your doors, you were so scared, they're going to have guns. And then the other thing that occurred to me is I know some folks go unnamed, and they are not preparing for the earthquake. They live in a life of Riley in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
But they're basically going, we may not have earthquake supplies, but we got guns.
Right. It's people.
And if you got guns,
Right.
I can go get me some earthquake supplies.
Right.
And I need to know that I can pick you off
Right.
at 1,000 yards coming
Right.
up the hill.
Right. Yeah, they say.
I'm just saying that I looked around, those of us who've seen America in chaos, unfortunately, there's things you think too.
Yeah.
If you live in the city, you worried about a natural disaster, you may have to fight your neighbors.
Right.
You may have to fight.
Right.
You may have to look what happened in New York with the hurricane. Excuse me, recently,
Right.
storm and all that. People looting.
Yeah.
Don't you know people were sitting up inside their house with weapons,
Yeah.
worried about some people coming in to get their stuff or take their stuff?
Right.
Now tell them about gun control.
Well, yeah.
It's a gun. It's we
you
naming the
can't-
controversy.
You can't. They say it's the have and have not program. And then you also have people. You got to be very careful. That talk show host. A lot of stuff is sensationalism. Was it Pierce Morgan? He was dealing with this cat named, I forgot his name. I know his name is Jones, and they were having this heated back and forth about here's this guy from from Britain, UK, and he has his opinion about the guns. I said you got to be very careful. Even if you're trying to speak to the right language, you got to be very careful because people are going to look at you and say, even if you're saying the best thing, are you the best person to say it?
Well, that's what I'm saying, and I agree with you. And here's what's so bad about this: I come down all over the issue, and I think most of us do. But that I mean, we have different opinions. We're not fixed. It's like
Right.
abortion.
Right.
We not all. Most people are kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
They don't want to deal with it.
Do your opinions change if all of a sudden you're thrusted in positions
Totally.
where your family member,
Totally.
a daughter, a mom, rape,
Totally.
crime,
Totally.
everything changes when you
Totally.
sit in a seat and go
Totally.
like, it hasn't hit
Totally.
me the same way.
Totally. Now, what happened
That's
with me is we had an earthquake, and I assessed Los Angeles.
Right.
And I also had friends who were in Florida and Homestead and other places, so I knew what had gone on. And as a regular, logical thinking person, I realized if you were to live in Los Angeles in the event of a natural disaster, unfortunately, you may need guns.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Now, maybe if I was out in somewhere else, see, Mac, I agree with Mac. Mac, the problem is having that stuff around. If something escalates, you worry.
Right.
So you never play with, that's the part of the danger. And I agree. See, that's what I'm saying. I'm all over the issue, too. I agree with Mac. I didn't own guns, hated guns, but when the earthquake came up, I felt like after I surveyed
Right.
my own city,
Right.
I felt like it was my obligation to not only own guns, but understand how to use them. I went to take a class.
Right.
I need to go back. I wanted to see cleaning, putting them together,
Right.
the whole deal,
Right.
because it became obvious to me that when you live in a certain environment, it's a product of the environment. Now, I agree with the solution ultimately, but what if you have to save your ass today?
Right.
Today.
It's different.
So here's my thing. I know one thing about L.A. because I watch what happens to other communities. When you have a certain dissolving of situations, you have a massive earthquake.
Right.
See, what I was thinking about the massive earthquake, when you got the, even though I'm willing to share my shit,
Right.
but people going to come to take it.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about drinking the pool, everything, right? In the village. You don't know how people were thinking out here after that earthquake, y'all.
No.
People were talking about how to survive. There are people camping on their front yards.
Oh no! If you ever want to see something, I can put my finger on an individual who actually gave me the closest association of people scrambling to get goods, Rodney King, because when that mess happened
Oh, and the riots?
and the riots, and I watched how people scurried about and basically going to get goods, services, because a lot of how they extended into places where you get your products, goods, and services. And I've always come from this belief: anything that's in abundance for people to consume or to obtain usually gets abused. Anything that's in
Totally.
flourish, if you get
Totally.
a lot of something,
Totally.
it usually will get abused. And it's a balancing act.
And that's why I said, again, we're talking about gun control. We're going to show some videos in a minute. We're just adding to the controversy. We're not taking a side. It's hard for me to take a side because it really depends on where you are and what you're doing. But let me just tell you one of the things that I told my woman at the time, because I showed her where the gun was.
Right.
I said, let's talk about strategy. You hear somebody in the house. You lock the bedroom door and call the police. You don't need to invest all that. Now, then you get the gun out and sit on the other side of the room.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when they try to beat on the door, you say, I got a gun. Don't come through the door. I called the police.
Right.
Well, the gun is for the person who kicks that door down. Kill him. Kill him. Shoot that son of a bitch square in the face. Okay? Kill him. Okay, because this is unfortunately. Now notice what I just said. I talked about an intruder. I said lock the door and call the police.
Right.
Get your gun out and sit on the other side of the door. But tell me you won't wish you had a gun.
Yeah.
Tell me you won't. You're not even trying to be aggressive. You wait for the police to come.
No, and that's the hard part.
That's what I told my little woman. I said, now if they kick in the door, shoot them.
That's right. You
Okay.
got to. It's called defending. Well, see remember. There's a difference in PMC. I see what you're saying here. You say I'm not for don't need for assault weapons. I said there's people.
There is if you want to fight your government.
There's gun control.
Yeah, you want to have the same gun they got.
It's gun control. And there's assault weapons. I said until they always say hard to have opinions when you haven't lived in what they call the minimum and maximum situation where you can go, oh, now I'm in this position. And God willing, we don't have to go through that. That's the part. Because right now we're Monday morning quarterbacks because we've been blessed enough not to have something like that put upon us. And we could have and we can run into the situation. And your opinions will change.
Let me tell this. In the 1960s, when they were killing black folks, when the FBI was doing things, COINTELPRO,
right.
Okay, and they were basically executing black folks. There was no doubt in anybody's mind that they might have to fight their government.
Right.
I can tell you, so remember someone who grew up in that time. It ain't hard for me to remember. I knew I had to beware of the police. The police, damn near wherever you went, was the Klan, right? That was people don't, this is real. Now that say, well, you came up, it ain't the same way. Well, maybe it is and maybe it ain't. I mean, we talking about conspiracy today. Right. Your current president hasn't done anything to allay any of the conspiracies. Why? You have Guantanamo still open. Right. We still doing renditions. Mm-hmm. They still have, the president supports indefinite retention of U.S. citizens.
Right.
Asking for these rights. The president has done nothing to ease anybody's fears. About any of this.
No president has.
So that's the whole thing about Obama, because it was supposed to be changed. So far, he is so in these areas where it comes to this, you still invading other countries. You still there is no change.
We can't even get past.
There is no change.
We can't get past every president having the first mantle of discussion. No new taxes. I said, forget the new ones. You get rid of the old ones and the current ones.
Well, that's what I say. We're going to show the videos. Now, PMC is really this whole thing about the assault weapons, and I think that's crazy, too. I just don't know the answer. What if you truly believe? Now, remember now, here's what happens. This is why I brought up the conspiracy. The people say, your concerns are unreasonable.
Yep, I know.
Know what you just did. You just cut them off.
Right.
In other words, someone says to you, I'm afraid that in 10 years I'm going to have to fight the U.S. government for my rights.
Yeah.
And you could, and then don't. And if you ask them to give you reasons why, please don't ask them that. Please don't ask them that, because they'll give you so many videos, so many documents. They'll give you so much proof and shit. You'll be scared. It has to do with what, to me, it has to do with what, like Vic says, it has to do with what you're afraid of,
Right.
and what you're preparing for.
Right.
The typical city person who's for gun control believes that the police protects them.
Yep.
The problem I had was I grew up in L.A. during the 60s, and the police never protected me. In fact, the police went out of their way to make sure I understood they were not there to protect me.
Right.
Okay? They were real clear about this, okay? They were real clear. Okay? So now it's hard for me at 50, 6 years of age to expect them to protect me, because I go like, you always told me you weren't there to protect me.
Right.
And then I also know what happened in the earthquakes. Look who gets aid.
Right.
And look who don't get aid.
Yeah.
Look what just happened.
And
Look at
Sandy.
what just happened with Sandy. Who got aid and who got no aid?
Right.
Now, here's the military assault weapon issue. I'm not for this. I think it's crazy, but I don't know what to do. What if you think the crooks and criminals are coming to your area and they got military assault weapons? Do you want to put out your revolver? Here they come. It's total disaster or whatever. Here come the bad guys.
Right.
They carrying assault weapons. Now, you going to get out your revolver, your 6-shooter?
Right. I know.
If you got kids, if you got a woman, you can't protect her. Right. They'll make you eat that mom.
And you know what
That's
it
like
is?
bringing, they say you don't bring a knife to a gunfight.
You know what it
And you
is?
don't bring a gun to an assault weapon
You
fight.
know what it is, Mario? It is what they're doing is saying the relevance of what's happening day to day versus the extraordinary circumstance.
True.
The relevance of everyday things happening. They say you don't need the assault weapons. But then when something happens on a massive level, it's like predicting earthquakes. Well, we know that they come, but we know that every day crime is right in your face. Earthquakes, you sit there and say, well, is it going to get to that moment? And I think that's the part that's getting everybody is every day, it's the mind of man. And because of what's wrapped around it, whether it's crime, the types of crime, when you see something that happened in Newton, Connecticut, it's crime. Whether they get into the mind of the man who committed the crime, which of course they can't now, they say, okay, let's blame it on this. And say, look, the issue is hard for people who are not living it. See, I leave it up to, I go to the parents and say, try to have a conversation in the room with them and see, should you impose what you think is the right. I'd love to sit there and see people go like, try to have the argument of, we need to have guns and we need to have assault rifles.
Oh, I know.
Try to talk to the person.
No,
that
that's
has
what's
gone
so
through it.
terrible. I agree.
Can't do that.
I can't either. But here's the other thing. I understand the other folks too.
Yeah.
And I also understand the people who just suffered just recently who said, we had a disaster.
Right.
No one came to help us.
Yeah.
There are crazy people on the street.
Right.
Now you want me to, and so you're not going to protect me.
Right.
See, to me, the shock for the most urban folks
Right.
is that they come to find out in these disasters that the authorities are not protecting them.
Right.
That's what happened in New Orleans. Imagine in New Orleans, you were protecting the police. They had police that killed people during that
Yeah, I know.
whole thing.
And
So now, what do you believe? If you live in New Orleans now, let me ask you this: because PMC, I know you're against assault weapons, right? If you lived in New Orleans right now, having seen what you saw on Katrina, and you got through Katrina, would you own an assault rifle?
Yeah.
Or would you own a gun at all? If you live in New Orleans right now, after you saw what happened with Katrina,
Yeah. It's hard.
I ask you this question. Do you feel like it's safe to live there and not own an assault weapon? Let's answer that while I pull up this other thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's all relative, and it's the have and the have-nots. And as anything goes to the disaster, those who come to feast on those who have things, goods or whatever, they tend to go after the ones that's poor and impoverished. It's the whole thing seems to be that they're targeted. Not saying exclusively, but at that moment, you're not making a determination of the type of weapon. You just hope you have a weapon. And then those who are fortunate because You know, you think about hospitalization, those who are the poorest, people not coming to rescue them, they're going to be fed upon by those who are going to take advantage. And of course, the police, those who did commit crimes at that time, have the advantage of using their job, the weapons in their advantage. So the part you end up saying, that's why I said, I don't even want to take an opinion of something
it's hard.
that I'm not in at that moment, because I know my opinion would change, because it'll be easy to be neutral.
See, you know your opinion.
It's totally different right now.
Here's my thing. If I had any faith whatsoever in the government or local government, it would affect the way I feel.
Yeah.
See, to me, those of you who are against it, you actually you have faith in the local government.
Right.
You have faith in the police to maintain order. You have faith, and I have faith in none of those things. I have faith in absolutely none of them. I hate to say that. And it would be different. And the thing that I recognize is that because I have a degree of affluence, I'm safer than most of you.
Right.
And because I'm in Los Angeles, look how at least, because my buddies in Florida who got hit by those tornadoes, those hurricanes, they're amazed at how fast California gets help.
Yeah.
We get help faster than anybody else.
Real quick.
We get the fastest help. Zoom. We'll fix it. Working overnight, all the wonderful efficiency and shit. Now, what happened to y'all?
Yeah. Different perspective.
Okay, so now we're going to show some videos right now, because I'm going to show a couple of things, because again, we didn't want to make it too long a show, but I ended up making this a lump because this was a harder segment. So what I'm going to do is just introduce these things on the way, 2 videos, because the one to look at, which again, I have people bombarding me with information. I want to thank Rick Munson from Facebook, who's dealing with a lot of issues, really upset. He's an example of one of the people who are really upset with the government, and he's really doing legal action against the government as it relates to just supervision, rights of licenses, authority. These are people who are tired of and how they use things. And just looking at example, just recently I'm watching stuff about prohibition, how the mob used the law to shut down all the competing liquor runners. That's the guys all the moonshiners were shut down. Why do the moonshiners hate the law? Because all the mob co-opted the law, sent the law out to shut down the moonshiners so that they can sell their own liquor. And that's the way it still works today. I'm watching to say, why are you busting them today? Are you helping the liquor industry? Do you really need to waste your time stopping people from making moonshine? With all other shit going on. Okay, no, but anyway, this is an example of why people don't like this oversight. So everybody sent me videos. So I'm going to show 2. I'm going to show PMC's video, but then I'm going to show you part of Innocence Betrayed. Now, Innocence Betrayed is a documentary that everybody out there in the conspiracy community points to. I have never seen it. Okay, but I'm going to watch it. Okay, and I'm not going to watch it at all today. I mean, all of it today.
Right.
Okay, and can't show you. It's about an hour. We're just going to show you some segments, but it all is supposedly, it shows that gun control has been used to disarm citizens to make them helpless before governments commit genocide. Okay? Now remember, so these are people who take this very seriously.
Right.
Okay, so see, PMC, you may live down the street from someone who's worried about this.
True.
All right. And so if you are a person, Mac, let me tell you something this. I bet you all the people who got money got assault weapons.
Yep.
Do you hear the S on that?
Yeah.
If you got enough money, say you got one of them Beverly, tell me you ain't got a room with 10 assault weapons in there.
Right. Yeah.
I'd take that bet and run to Vegas. What percentage of Beverly Hills millionaire people? Okay, I'm just saying. Because you're going to have it, like Max said. They're expensive weapons, okay?
Yeah.
Let's go take a look at PMC's video. The first one. Here we come. There you go. Thank you. I wanted to play that because I wanted to remind everybody, we want everybody to be cool on this. Remember, I told you.
Yeah.
I guarantee you got somebody in your family who's on the exact opposite
Side,
of
be
you
careful.
of this.
Be careful.
Okay, I guarantee you. You know you do. Most of you know you do.
Yeah.
And that's why I said, and Vic said, remember Vic said, Vic is just so honest about it. He says, my opinion would change depending on what happened to me. Go get raped and you own a gun.
Yes.
And go have someone pull assault gun weapon on you, you're not going to go buy a revolver.
Right. You're not.
When you're going to say, the reason why the police were running, you go like, the police are running from someone shooting a gun.
Right.
You say, I want that goddamn gun.
Right.
The one that makes the police run.
Yeah. You'll sit
I
there.
might have to shoot some guy. Can people? Well, is that what they bringing against me?
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
hell no.
No. You hope to hear one day, and you hope that this never happens. So this is going to be a conflict in this statement. You hope to hear that if this ever happens again, and because of the nature of society, somebody's going to use a gun to go kill innocent people. You hope when all of a sudden they see that person who's dressed in that garmentry that makes them look like what's going on, that as soon as they get ready to pull out a gun, happens to be somebody there going, look, I'm packing, taking you out before you can pull the trigger. I sit there and I go like this. On one hand, I go, pretend like you're the person there. You got people there, and all of a sudden you're against guns and assault weapons. But your daughter, your mom, your brother, they're in the theater or somewhere like that, and somebody's ready to go commit suicide but kill all the people there. And just so happens that person is carrying an assault weapon, and they take notice of this person, seeing that they're about to do something, unpacking their guns to say, I'm about to take you guys out. And the person puts on and said, pow. And they say, he was about to. And I said, now do your opinion change? Because now they'll jump on the guy.
I'm right.
You're right. See, it's one of those things where I say,
telling
put
you.
yourself in that position.
They
It
scared me
changes.
during the earthquake.
Right.
I never had guns till the earthquake.
Right.
You have to have something scare you.
Right.
And I became scared of my neighbors. And like I said, I realized a bunch of people out there around me are
Right.
not prepared.
Right.
But they're thinking, I may not have water, but I got a gun, and I can
Yeah.
go get some water.
It's-
and okay, and I'm willing to share, but you ain't gonna come like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to take you out.
Yeah, yeah.
And see, that's the way LA gets to be. You think like that. Now, here's the thing. The whole conspiracy literature said that they were going to allow that to happen and then let things get bad so that they could come after your gun. See, that's one of the more common conspiracies. And those of you who don't keep up with any conspiracy, now, that was just my nature. I kept up with every conspiracy. Aliens,
Right.
JFK, everything kind, and just out of my own whatever. And so I know what people have been talking about for the last,
Yep.
40 years, all right? So these are not new things. Now, I did find some clips that'll introduce the video, Innocence Betrayed. We're not going to show it here today. I may arrange to show it on the network once I've reviewed it myself, okay? But let's watch an introductory piece on Innocence Betrayed.
Hey, while you're doing that, Mario, can you put the link clip in the chat room? It's from YouTube, the YouTube link.
I'll try.
What
okay.
happens
Don't worry.
when self-defense is against the law? What happens when the protectors become the predators? What happens when innocents are betrayed? Imagine that 2/3 of all Americans disappear. 170 million people. Or that the countries of Germany, France, and Spain are virtually wiped off the map. 170 million people gone. In the 20th century, that's how many innocents were slaughtered, tortured, starved, mutilated, worked to death, bayoneted, hanged, annihilated at the hands of their governments. They had no means to defend themselves.
See what I'm saying? I didn't produce this. See, PMC, I agree with PMC. The hope we need a national dialogue. The problem is, there is no national dialogue. This is where the president's leadership again falls short. No true dialogue because no true discussions. The reason why there's no true discussions, you'd have to discuss why American citizens are afraid of their government. And no one is going to be willing to sponsor that as a public discussion. Right. No one. It's just politically too much of a hot potato. So you're not going to have any true leadership from your government on this issue.
Right.
And it's going to fuel more of the conspiracy people. But you're not going to have any leadership from your government like you haven't, because in order to have true leadership, you would have to have true discussion like we have had here today, and they are unwilling. They will never discuss that Americans don't trust their government, because then they'd have to listen to all the people from Hurricane Sandy come forward and tell why they don't trust the government. All the other disaster. Katrina would have to be revisited. So no government official, your president has shown zero leadership on this to me, like all the rest of them. That's what Vickers said. Not any different. It's the same.
Yeah.
They don't tackle this because they cannot afford politically. They just cannot afford to politically lead that kind of open discussion, because it's never been an open discussion like that, because it's never been open.
Right.
It's the myth of being open. That's the whole point.
Right.
These type of discussions, to me, reveal that your government is unwilling to really communicate on these kinds of topics. That is part of why the conspiracies flourish, because the government say nothing. What does that help? They say nothing. So there is no trust in the government, whether it be on guns, aliens, abductions, none of that. None of that. And there is no true open discussion. Hence, that's why you have the things today. I wish we had more time to get into more detail. Maybe we'll continue this again next time, next week on Conspiracy Wednesday. Everybody, that's been the good news, the bad news, and the other shit. Conspiracy Wednesday, gun control. Everybody stay cool, because we want everybody to live. That's what we really want. And we recognize this is difficult, hard to have a fixed opinion. It all depends on what you've experienced. Yeah. All right.
Yes, sir.